friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Kate and today we are going to be sewing block number 4 from our designer mystery block of the month from Fat Quarter Shop. This is what your block is going to look like this month. Our designer for this month is Chelsea from Sherry and Chelsea Design for Moda, and the name of our block is Token of Love. I do want to apologize. The reason why I have not had this video out sooner is because I had walking pneumonia along with ear infection. I don't know what's going on. It's September. I am not sure why I have this respiratory issue. I consider myself to be a healthy adult. So here we are. And I was tested for everything and I was negative for all the other stuff that, you could think of. So I'm just now getting better and I thought I'd get this video out as soon as I can. So with that being said, I apologize. And now let's sew the block. So here are my pieces that I've already cut out. It looks kind of different from what the pattern calls for. And that's because with some of the sewing in this block, you can sew some in strip and then cut down, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you my process of doing so. Fat Quarter Shop has a great illustration in this pattern that you can reference, but I just wanted to show you the way I sew mine, because if you don't want to cut it the way they have it illustrated and you want to decrease bias, and if you're a newer sewer, it will be easier for you to do so. So with that being said, let's start sewing this block. I have my setting at 1/4 inch for piecing. The first thing I'm going to do for this block is sew our half square triangles. So what I'm going to do here is put the pretty sides together. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch from the center. So what I'm going to do now is cut this in half. What I'm going to do now is use my Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer ruler to trim this down to what the pattern calls for. Okay, so here are all my pieces right here completed. We need to make 4 for this section and they are done. The next thing we're going to do is taking another square and piecing them together. But what I have chosen to do is take my E and my I and sew it as a strip, and they are right here. So what I'm going to do is sew it together as a strip and cut it to what it needs to be. So that's what I'm going to do now. And that's what I was explaining earlier, that sometimes when you read a pattern and it says to cut it a certain way, if you don't want to, and there are other ways of doing it that makes it easier for your brain, do so. And then if the result will still come out the same, do what you feel comfortable with doing. And that's kind of what I'm showing you here. I'm still sewing the same thing, but I'm not sewing it in the exact way of how the pattern is written. And as you get experience, you also will find out that, there are so many ways of doing things that is different from what is written, and that makes it easier. So that's kind of what I'm showing you. So now that it's sewn, I'm going to press it to the white. That's what it wants us to do. I'm going to press it to the white. Actually, no, I'm going to press it open. It makes it easier. So I'm going to press it open with my finger, and then I'll give it an iron. The reason why I'm pressing it open is because I'm still going to trim it down. And then, so this is my strip sewn. I'm going to cut it for what the pattern calls for, and then it'll give me a perfect rectangle when I am done. I sewed the strip like this. And so when I finish sewing it, I just cross cut this way to make 4 pieces like that. Okay, so that's what I did, and that is done. So what I'm going to do now is assemble the first part that we just did. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the HST that we just completed. I'm going to sew this to this unit, and I'm going to sew this unit to the rest of it when we are done, and we're going to need to make 4. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So now that I have my pieces sewn, and I try to press open for the most part, even though it has us pressing to the side, it just makes this piece a little bit more flatter. The next thing I'm going to do is just join this piece to this piece, and then this unit will be done. I'm just going to chain piece it, meaning that I'm not going to break thread. I'm just going to go right through and sew. And I'm going to try to match my seam as much as I can. So now that step number 1 and 2 are completed and we've made this unit right here, the next thing we're going to do is sew our next step, which is doing our K and D. But with that, I also have a strip out here. So I'm going to sew this in strip as well, so you can see how much easier it is when you just sew it in strip and then cut. So let's do that. So now that my strip is sewn, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. I'm not going to fold it open like this, right? I'm just going to go ahead and cut it the way it's supposed to be. And so that's what I'm gonna do now, okay? So I have my cutting mat right here. So with it looking like this, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and just trim it. I wanna straighten out my seam and then I'll put my ruler on, then I will cut. Okay, so now they've been cut. What I'm gonna do now is go ahead and press it open and I'll give it a little heat. So this is what we need. We need to make 4 of this, and that is what I did. So I press it open with my finger right here. What I'm gonna do now is just give it a little heat and I'll be right back. So here they are all sewn, and I have all 4 pieces, and you only sewing once and cutting 4 times versus having 8 little pieces and sewing it. So that's what I did. That's a different way of doing it. I just sewed in strip and cut to what I need. So that's done. The next thing we're doing is making our quarter square triangle. Now in this case, I'm doing mine a little bit different, and I'll show you why. So next we're going to do 3/4 square triangle. 5/4 Shop has a great illustration in this pattern, but I'm going to do mine a little different only because when you're sewing this type of quarter square triangle, it creates some bias, and I'm just going to eliminate that by doing mine a little different. So let me show you. So what I'm gonna do here is take my lights and my red, and I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to do a half square triangle first. Okay, now this is not how 5/4 Shop has it written, but I'm just gonna show you the way in which I do mine. I'm just going to sew straight down the middle. So now that I have the HST sewn, I'm gonna just open it up. I don't need this, so I can save it for something later. So now this is done. I need to make sure that it's facing the right direction, meaning that the light is going this way and the dark is going this way. So what I'm gonna do now is bring my pink and making sure that everything is facing the right way. I'm going to put it directly on top and making sure, all I need to do is make sure that this is facing right, because when we're done, we're going to trim it finally. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is sew from here to here, and then when I'm finished, my square is going to look like this. Okay, because we need to have our white going up this way, and then we need to have our pink going this way with our red going this way. So that's why I'm going to sew going like this. All I need to do is make sure that this corner matches this corner, even though this piece is smaller. It doesn't matter, okay, because we're going to trim down. So before I cut, I'm gonna open it back up one more time to make sure that I did it right, and then I'll cut this part off. Now this part right here, I can use it for something else later because it is a cutaway. It's gonna end up being like this, but I'm not going to need it for this block. So what I'm gonna do now is bring my ruler and measure. Now to do this, I'm gonna use this perfect clearly slotted trimmer to trim it. I'll bring it over and I will measure it to what it needs to be. Then I'll cut. So when you put your ruler on like this, because let me just bring it over this way. So I have like outliers out here. So when I bring my ruler over, it's still going to be bigger. This part right here will be cut away, so it wouldn't matter. So let me go ahead and trim it. So now this is what my piece is looking like right here. And we need to make 4. So these are all of it here completed. Right here. This is what they look like. Now, if you don't want to do it my way and you want to do it the way the book said, that's great, because that's a beginner friendly. But if you are more advanced and you want to tackle it like this, you more than can. The reason why I sew it like this is because it eliminates my fabric from stretching. That's that. And so our next step is to make 4 more HST with our green and our background. And that is already done. I've already completed that ahead of time. This is the 4 that we need. Our next step is to assemble our block. So I'm gonna put this in the middle right here. The first thing I'm gonna do for this is assemble our quarter square because it's a little confusing. And I'm gonna just bring it like this, kind of like a pinwheel. Flip it out and then flip it out, making sure that all of my background are facing this way. And then I'm going to bring our HST and put it like this, and like that. So that's what we're doing for this. So let me just go on ahead and chain piece it. So now the center is completed. Honestly, I feel like this is a lot of work for the center, but it is done. This is what it's supposed to look like. Our next step in completing this block is to bring all our order supporting character and join them with this center. So what we're going to do next is put these that we did earlier, put it like this, and then we're going to bring our last piece like that. So that's what we're doing. So my next step is to sew all this together and this block will be finished. And I'm just going to sew this to this part, this to this, this to this, and I'll come back and sew this last piece right here. For this part, in sewing the last section of this block, I did pin my segments because I want my seams to match up. So I did take a little time to just kind of like, you know, press on this part that's open right here, and I'll just go ahead and work it in. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So here's block number 4, all completed. Now, if you don't want to sew this piece in the middle, you can just sew a solid Ohio star in the middle here, and I think that will also make an impact as well, because after sewing this, it's a lot of pieces to be sewn for this center pieces right here, in my opinion. So if you are one of those people who doesn't have time to be cutting a lot of fabric, you can either do Ohio star, which you won't have to do this half square triangle right here. You just make it a solid piece, and then you will sew these part, and it will just be an Ohio star block center in the middle. That's another option. Or you can just make another star that's the same size in the middle. That'll also make an impact as well. That's just another option that, you know, I thought about while I was sewing this block. So this is it all sewn together, and I did complete the entire block. I went on ahead and sewed the pieces to complete the house block, and I did show the process of which I've sewn this parts on, so I didn't feel the need to have to sew it the 4th time. And the reason why I'm doing it is so I don't wait until the end and then have to sew these pieces on to each block, because it makes it really, really long and cumbersome. So I hope this has helped and encourage and give you a little bit of boost. And again, I do apologize for not having this block out sooner. Like I said in the beginning, I had walking pneumonia. It's not even winter yet, so I don't know what's going on. That's all I have for you today. I hope you are having a great day, and I would love to see you in my next video.